Good morning, everybody. Now, a few days ago, I made a video which was entitled, "You Are Being Manipulated." In the UK, the manipulation is now reaching another level with another kind of manipulation happening to get people to be motivated and enraged about the protests which are happening in London, not just what's happening in the Middle East. Now, as I've said before, over the last 4 years, we've had COVID lockdowns, we've had injections, we've had the Ukraine situation. But in all of those three things, the mainstream media, the political people, Labour, Tory, whatever, all around the world, comparable parties, have all been one-sided. Their narrative has been, you must support lockdowns or you are a granny killer. You must support injections or you are a conspiracy theorist. You must support Ukraine, otherwise you're a Putin puppet. This time it's different. With the Middle East, the conflict between Israel and Palestine, or you could call it Hamas and the Netanyahu regime in Israel, if you want to name the people who are on the two sides, who are, the instigators of the trouble and the troubles and the conflict. You are being manipulated to support a particular side, even if you have nothing to do with either side. So, as I've said before, if you are Jewish, it's completely understandable you supporting Israel, even though many, many Jews don't. And even within Israel, there is huge resistance and a huge movement against the bombing of Gaza, which is now taking place after the Hamas attacks on the 7th of October. If you're Arab, if you're Muslim in general, I can understand people supporting Palestine and the Palestinian cause. Gaza is not a nation. The people living in Gaza do not have any rights, and there's 2.2 million people. They cannot move anywhere, they cannot leave Gaza, they cannot travel, they cannot even build an economy, they cannot trade with the rest of the world. The only thing that goes into Gaza is what Israel allows to come in through aid. So their trade is completely controlled by Israel. So they don't have a nation like normal nations do. So you can understand people supporting the Palestinians living there because they don't have rights like a normal nation. But what is not so understandable is that people who are not Jews or not Arabs or not Muslims are getting whipped up to take a particular side in the conflict. And as I've said, I'm not going to go into it again, but the groundwork has been done for that on both sides over many, many decades in multiple different ways. But now it is being instigated not just in terms of what's happening in the Middle East, but in other countries around the world. Hatred between two sides is being built up, fervency and rage to come out on the streets, in London being a prime example, and people are being goaded to come out on the same day to support one side or the other. So there will be two different big protests which will come together in central London, and that is the groundwork for that is being laid to happen on Remembrance Day. Remembrance Day this year is a Saturday, which is unfortunate. The Remembrance Day, Armistice Day, is the 11th of the 11th of November. 11 is a significant number to the globalists. If you understand that, you know. If you don't, you don't. I'm not going to go into that now. But on the 11th of the 11th, which is a Saturday, there is a huge pro-Palestine march being planned, because since the beginning of the current conflict, the pro-Palestinian marches have been going out every Saturday since then, since the beginning of the bombing of Gaza. So they're planning. They're going to. It looks like this is just what they're going to do. They're going to go and march every Saturday in support of Palestine and against the bombing of Gaza, which has killed thousands of children. The other side would say, well, Israel has the right to defend itself and take out Hamas. My view is we should have a ceasefire because we should do everything we can to stop killing innocent citizens, including thousands of children. And if we don't have a ceasefire, it's going to escalate and escalate and escalate. That's my view. Not everyone agrees with that, and that's fine. You're entitled to your view. But what I don't want to see is a pitched battle on the streets of London. Now, a couple of people on my side of the fence, in most things, people who have supported free speech, have been anti-woke, who support Brexit, and generally support freedom, but haven't always supported freedom, actually, during the lockdown period, are now coming out and feeding into the narrative. So Nigel Farage has called for the pro-Palestine march in London planned for Armistice Day to be blocked, and sent that tweet, directed it to Sadiq Khan, because the person who ultimately will make the decision, who has the decision about what goes ahead in central London, is the Mayor of London, who is also the Police and Crime Commissioner for London, in charge of the Metropolitan Police, and that is Sadiq Khan. Now, of course, Sadiq Khan is not going to block the march for a pro-Palestinian march in London. No, he's simply not going to do that. So that is going to go ahead, no question. So calls for it to be blocked, are going to fall on deaf ears. That's not going to happen. But there are some people who are whipping this up in what I think is a very, very dangerous way, getting people who are either pro-Israel or anti-Palestine or anti-Muslim, who have been pushed in that direction with the narrative through the war on terror, are being goaded to come out and defend the cenotaph. Here's a tweet from Douglas Murray. UK Hamas supporters are now planning a 1 million-man march on Remembrance Day. They plan to defame our war dead and desecrate the cenotaph itself. This is the tipping point. If such a march goes ahead, then the people of Britain must come out and stop these barbarians. So, there's no evidence at all that there's going to be people in the pro-Palestine march wanting to desecrate the cenotaph itself on that day. There have been some people who have acted like that in past marches. Absolutely true. There are a number of people on the fringes of the marches who are out to cause trouble. Probably they are agents provocateurs. Probably, agents of somebody, whether it's some foreign state or our own state, wanting to cause trouble between the two sides to bring in more of the agenda to curtail free speech. But this is actually calling everyone on the pro-Palestine march. He doesn't even call it a pro-Palestine march. He calls it UK Hamas supporters, indicating that everybody who is against the bombing of Gaza is pro-Hamas. Well, that simply is not true. That's characterizing everybody in a wrong way, and then calling them barbarians, which of course is pejorative to everybody who will be there, whether it's 1 million people or fewer or more, I don't know. But then he's saying, if a march goes ahead, the people of Britain must come out and stop these barbarians. So he's goading people to come out in force, gather around the cenotaph or Whitehall and defend it against these idea of these barbarians coming down Whitehall to defame the cenotaph. So he's setting up a scene for a clash of two marches, of two groups to happen on the 11th of November. Now, if you go out, if you're silly enough to respond to this by actually going out and taking part in some rival march to defend the cenotaph, that's the police's job. I know the police don't do a very good job of doing this, but if you do, you're going to be caught on camera, and any clashes that happen, you're going to be dragged through the courts and possibly end up in prison after the new Public Order Act, which came into force this year. What I was trying to say earlier is, because people are being directed in two different directions to make two different rival camps that are going to come together and clash, the powers that be don't care which side you support. They just want 1 million people versus 1 million people coming together to have a big battle and clash on the streets of London, which will then allow them to advance their agenda of bringing in draconian police powers in a way that we haven't seen before. Because what they will say here is, well, there's been this big clash, therefore we have to ban protests. We don't want to, but we have to for your safety and security, which is always the excuse that they use. So if you have a mind to think, these people like Douglas Murray here is not your friend. Is he going to be there? Is he going to be there in person defending the cenotaph? Is he going to be at the front of the march? He didn't say he is going to be. I very much doubt it. Don't get goaded into going out and being part of a massive clash, a massive two-sided rage riot against two rival factions that have been set up, pro-Palestine, pro-Israel, or your patriotism is being twisted, is being appealed to in a twisted manner to get you to go out and get involved in a staged event, which is not going to, you are going to be basically the patsy. If you go out here, you're going to be a patsy, and you are going to be used, a useful idiot, used by these people who are goading you into creating a pitched battle on the streets of London. So I guess I'm just basically saying, if you are on the side of our country, this is not the way to defend your country, even though it's appealing to you to do that. So use your loaf. Don't be a patsy. Don't get involved in this state-fabricated piece of theatre where you're going to end up in trouble and our freedoms are going to be taken away from us. Think about it. Let me know what you think as well in the comments. I'll be very interested to see if you agree or if you don't agree. Do you think Douglas Murray and Lawrence Fox, who's also put out something saying, we are in a battle for Britain, it's time to stand up and be counted, on his Twitter, similar thing, not explicit about this, but obviously his picture there is of a First World War soldier in front of a flag. It doesn't specifically mention the pro-Palestine march, but obviously this is being written at the same time. Do you think that these people are right? Or do you think that actually we need to see through this and not get goaded into Remembrance Day rage? Let me know what you think, and God bless you all.